All right, good morning. Welcome in, everybody, from both MLB and from obviously my channel. We got a great day of baseball to talk about. A lot of things happened yesterday. Big time landmark decision in the schoolboy arbitration case. He's taken home $32 million. Tigers are now officially all in, whether they wanted to be or not. Framber is the other part of that with the Tigers. We'll get into all things Framber here. And then we'll also talk about the World Series, the WBC roster announcements. Now that we have the full picture of who is playing, who isn't playing. Obviously, very sad for some of the Puerto Rican guys. My brother Francisco, of course, can't play with the insurance. I know his heart hurts, but it's going to be a great tournament overall. We have really slammed rosters, and I'm very excited for a couple weeks when this thing kicks off. So, let me just do one little moment of housekeeping here on my computer, and then we can get into some things. So many things happen. We might have to have another show covering it, like a part 2. Yeah, so it's also a little bit of an issue because I have till 11:30 today, and then I got to rock and roll, go get my kid from school. We have crazy Friday today, ballet rehearsals, whole bunch of other things going on. But we're going to do our best to cover all of this as thoroughly as possible. And shout out to Coco for noticing my Miles Davis stippling in the back. And let's get it popping. Of course, I was on here earlier checking out the rosters. That's probably not the first thing I want to attack today. I have some fun things to attack. But first, let's talk about the Tigers, right? It's all about the Tigers today. Tigers, 2 days ago when I got off this show on Wednesday, it seemed like it was what's going to happen with the schoolboy case. Can they afford the 32 mil? Well, not only can they afford the 32 mil, which they lost in arbitration to schoolboy, but they also dropped 38 mil a year on Mr. Framber Valdez. And now we're talking about a team that, in my estimation, was a free agent starter short, and I didn't think they were going to go to my number 1 free agent starter. Now we're talking about a team that's cooking with gas for this year. They should be all in with the squad that they have right now. Schoolboy, Valdez, Flaherty, Mize, and Olsen is light years better than it felt before because there's such a big leap from Flaherty to Schoolboy. It felt like there was too much pressure on him to shoulder all the load. We've seen a lot of that in the postseason the last couple of years. I mean, he's been throwing 8 innings, 9 innings, absolutely mowing everybody down as much as possible. But after an entire season of mowing people down, it's a big ask to have to win every game he starts every single round. Now you have known playoff weapon Framber Valdez in the mix. So this is kind of amazing. I can't believe they did this. All right, let me answer this real quick. We are improving. We are trending well. We are trending. We're not where we want to be yet. First game is a day, 1 month from today, plus 1 day. So we'll get there. We'll get to the finish line. But yeah, we're trending. We're trending. Thank you guys, my usuals here, for checking up on me. Appreciate that. Anyway, yeah, Tigers from the top rope. I mean, this is a much better team than I expected them to have. I was a little worried. Yeah, the pizza boy put up the cash. Little Caesars funding this Tigers run this year. So, at first I thought there was just no way. I was not on the radar for Framber Valdez to the Tigers. We talked on Wednesday about some of what we thought the ramifications of the schoolboy arbitration case would be, thinking if he lost the case, that gave them an extra 13 million-ish per se to go pursue, another rotation starter like a Bassett or Giolito or a Littell or somebody to fill in. Earlier in the offseason, Labor Torres came back on the qualifying offer. That's 22 mil. That's a pretty steep price. He's a good player. But again, this is the Tigers. They haven't spent money since the older Illich passed away. They've been very frugal. They did stretch a little bit for Javi Baez, but since then, they've been doing this. We have a big up-and-coming group of position players. They're talking about Colt Keith, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Dingler, Parker Meadows, that group. McGonigal is coming in that group. Max Clark is coming in that group soon. So that was kind of the strength of the team, was they have this young, dynamic offensive core coming, And then they have the best pitcher in the sport, Skubal. Obviously, Mize was the 1-1 pick in the draft. There was also a guy, Matt Manning, who was a very high prospect. This is all what we were looking at as the future of the Tigers. Now, as life happens and as baseball goes, some things work out, some things don't work out. Mize is more of a solid number 3, number 4 type of guy in my mind at this moment. Manning is out of MLB. He's, I believe, in Japan or Korea now. And Skubal is, in fact, the top pitcher in the sport, but he needed some help, and they go get my number 1 pitching free agent, which was Framber Valdez. And yes, I feel a little validated that he was able to cash in the way he was. And I also think this contract makes a lot of sense. Probably not the guy that a lot of teams wanted to hitch their wagon to for like a 7-year deal, 8-year deal. I know that there's some makeup concerns. I know that the second half last year, he wasn't as good. I know that he's got a big workload under him. But at the same time, this is a proven guy who's awfully consistent year in, year out. He's got a dominant sinker. He's got a dominant curveball. He's got a good changeup. He makes all his starts, keeps the ball on the ground. It's a great profile. I had him as the number 1 free agent for a reason. And again, I think this contract just makes sense. It's 3 years instead of the 7 or the 8, but it is paying him top dollar. He gets the highest AAV of all time for a left-handed pitcher. And I definitely feel validated that happened, because for a while there, it was looking like his market was falling apart. And I'm like, man, I have him rated ahead of Cease. I have him rated ahead of a lot of people. So personally, I think this is a power move. Any team that signed Framber was going to be a power move, and it's huge for the Tigers. Now they are firmly the favorites in my mind in the AL Central, and this gives them a great shot to go toe-to-toe with the Mariners and whoever comes out of the AL East. At least that's how I'm looking at it. In my mind as we get started. Okay, relax, Marcus. 32. I was just coming into the old prime here at 32, so I get it. He's not a spring chicken, but he's not old either. All right, what do we got here? Jackson Jobe coming back from Tommy John at some point, and Troy Melton was a stud last year too. Let's not forget about Troy Melton. Troy Melton, to your point, showed up pretty well in the postseason through some... Love you! Is everything at the door for me? Is all the stuff I don't need to bring anything yet from the door, right? All right, thank you. Melton looked great last year. Let me go back over to my Tigers page here. Because at the moment, they're going to put Melton in the minor leagues, but that's good. You need depth. You need depth. So they have a potent guy who pitched in the postseason with depth. They added Kenley to this bullpen. Vest has been up and coming. He's on a rocket ship going up. Finnegan, they brought him back. They switched him to huge splitter usage. And now all of a sudden, we know the way AJ runs a bullpen. He's very crafty with it out there. All of a sudden, the pitching staff, take a look at it, and it's a lot more upsidey. Jackson Jobe, he got the injury surgery date of 6/16. So that puts him in a very end of the season timeline, probably best case unless he just had an internal brace, but I don't know that for sure. All right, let's get into the chat here and see what you guys got for a second as we continue to talk about this Tigers. Dingler going to go get himself a bulletproof vest for the chest protector. Man, it's crazy how that one pitch, and I remember we were covering it on this show when that happened. It was versus the Yankees. How one pitch, one bad reaction set off a whole chain of events where it really made Framber look not so great. But I don't think that's necessarily who he is. Let's not judge him off of one thing. See a lot of stuff in the chat about that today. Old to first be a free agent, correct? That is true. That is true. Framber's story is actually super crazy. He was signed at 21 out of DR, which is, you just don't see that. They signed at 16, 17. He signed for I think $10,000 signing bonus. Guys like that don't make it. Not only did he make it, he's the highest AAV lefty of all time. So what a story. What a great job by the Astros, identifying him, developing him, and really a great job by him to go out there and put up the numbers he has. All right, let's talk Casey Mize here for a second. For someone like Mize, whose splitter gets killed, why would he keep throwing it if the results are consistently terrible? All right, we're going to take a quick detour to go look at Mr. Casey Mize. Now, the splitter is the pitch he was famous for coming out of Auburn when he was 1-1. It's his second most usage last year, 24%, 88.6. miles an hour on the split. That is about a 6 mile an hour difference off of his four-seam fastball. There is vertical separation. Let's see what the four-seam average is. Last year it averaged 17.2 inches of rise. That's above average. 8.1 inches of tail, which is very, very flat, very straight. And then the split, 4.4 inches of rise. So you're talking pretty good separation. Actually, 14.4 inches of tail. So it's got pretty good separation. Maybe that's a command thing, but let's go see what the run value on everything has been the last few years. Yikes, -11. Good call here, Dan. -11 on the split last year. They're hitting 297 off of it with a 494 slug, 371 WOBA. What's the X-WOBA on that? 298, so a little better on the expected. And it is his highest whiff pitch, so that makes sense why he needs it, because you need to generate whiff somewhere. His second biggest whiff pitch is his slurve. But yeah, results were not great last year, and they were negative the year prior as well. Let's see some more seasons. Negative way back about neutral, and yeah, he hasn't had one year where the splitter has really carried him. Now, in terms of, let me just go to pitch type for a sec. Whiff percentages. You know, it's ticked up a little bit the last 2 years, 33% and 32% the last 2 years. So that would be one hint of why he would maybe want to utilize it, because you need to get some level of whiff in your game. Yeah, otherwise it's just really hard to survive. Let's see what Stuff Plus has to say. Because again, like a lot of times when you get in as a pitcher, and I know this because I've done this, you get in the habit of throwing a pitch that's maybe ineffective, but there's something that's pushing you towards throwing it. Sometimes it could be a stuff grade, whether it's an internal grade from the Tigers or, you know, some coming from an outside source. Anyway, they don't love his split. At one point they did, going back to 2020, give it a grade of 112. Now it's below average. So yeah, we could begin to question this a little bit. What is it about his split that gets hit so hard? This is a good question. Is it as simple as command? It looks like there's some balls that didn't quite get to the bottom rail. There's some mistakes in the middle. I mean, you know, I'd have to watch a little more to understand that. But looking at his overall pitch chart, yeah, I mean, it'd be good if he had even more drop on it for sure, but I don't see anything immediately that makes it red flaggish, so I guess we'll have to monitor that as it goes on. Anyway, we look at Casey Mize because that gives us a little bit of context into what Detroit's rotation is and why they really needed a Framber Valdez. They really weren't letting Casey Mize pitch more than 3 innings at a clip, 4 innings at a clip in the postseason. I've been in the ballpark and been on the opposing team when Framber Valdez came in and punched tickets and threw a complete game against us like he did in the 2021 ALCS when I was with the Red Sox. World Series champion, and generally a guy who doesn't seem to give too many FUCKs about who's in the box, just goes right at guys. It's a different approach than Skubal. He's a ground ball pitcher with a great curveball. So even though they're both lefties, it's 2 different looks, and I actually like pairing these 2 guys together. And now I'm excited about the Tigers, whereas before I was scratching my head a little bit about how it's all going to work. I am definitely excited about the Tigers. Good morning. Tigers clear AL Central favorite. That's what I agree to. Golly gee willikers, I hope all the stuff is by the door. You know, I'm only a 40-year-old boy here. I need my wife to lay things out for me or it doesn't get done. So that's all. All right, what else we got here? Appreciate you, Josh. Imagine if Volpe just swung at the Framber pitch down the middle. Good point, good point. First game of spring training from the Yankees 2 weeks from today. The trumpeter behind me is Mr. Miles Davis. Jackson Jobe had a full Tommy John, but reports are that he's on schedule to be back this year. So, okay, so maybe you get an injection of a pretty potent prospect in Jackson Jobe at the end here. So, look, it's still delicate. I mean, of course, if Skubal or Valdez goes down, they're back to square one. They don't really have the depth where they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with the best of the best come postseason. But AJ is one of the best managers in the game. He's going to navigate this team to the postseason pretty comfortably. I think they have the most talent in the division now. And these guys are fairly durable, so Even though I say it's delicate, it's not crazy walking on thin ice delicate. It's just like with everybody, things are a little delicate. But there's also the if factor with this team in terms of guys that could come up and impact. Job getting healthy, McGonigal, Melton. I think Max Clark's still a ways away, but they have some impact potential coming up from underneath, which is a nice wild card to throw into the mix, generally speaking. All right. Highest paid lefty of all time this year. Skubal destroys that next year. Yeah, I mean, I would expect Skubal's going to make over $40 million per season next year. You met one of my kids in Florida? Which kid? Who would that be? So if his split is that bad, why keep throwing it? Well, again, like, we're going to go back to Mize here for one more second. There's no immediate red flag, so I can't sit here and say I immediately have the answer to this. The movement looks fine. It has separation from his fastball. Of course, there could be an element of deception here. There could be an element of poor location here. He could have an element of he throws too many pitches in the mid-speed. His split and his slider are both in the 88 mile an hour range, and they're both hotly used pitches. They make up 40% of his usage. So there's a world in which if you sit in a medium speed band, you're on time for his split, even if you're not looking for a split, thus making you more likely to whack it when it's a mistake. That's a possibility. Let's see if we can't take a look. I mean, we're just randomly cherry picking splitters off the chart here. All right. So for one thing, here's Casey Mize's setup and what the hitter's seeing. The ball's behind the head here, comes way out. I feel like it's a very easy ball to pick up, to be honest with you. Also, when he's facing lefties, it's weird that he's on the third base side because now he has to angle everything going left to get it in the zone. And that makes his split a little bit of a tough pitch to find the right lane for. He might be in better shape by moving over to the left a little bit on a split. And that's just me cherry picking one pitch. Let's go find another split here. Here's a fly out. A little weird that he would be that under a split. Typically, you want to be on top of a split. Well, you want the batter to be on top of a split. I don't know, man. You know, I don't have a great insight on it. He gave up some damage on it for sure. But generally speaking, you don't want to be so predictable. Now, maybe it's a righty-lefty thing. Let me look at handedness of his pitch percentages. Okay, so in 2025, he was 41% four-seam, 31% split, 20% slider. So this speaks to it a little bit. The slider and the split versus lefties make up 52% of his offerings, and they're about 88 miles an hour. That's separated from the fastball, but not enough where if somebody's on the fastball, they won't be able to cover the speed of the split. So I think he might have a speed separation issue a little bit versus lefties, because we were seeing a 302 batting average last year versus lefties on the split, including 4 home runs and 8 doubles. Now, the reason why he would have it is because this is also how he finishes at-bats. I mentioned the whiff rate. 37 strikeouts last year, 2 lefties on the split. I wonder what that looks like to righties. To righties, it's not as big a part of his game. Only 14 punchies, and he only throws it 15% of the time. So versus righties, this pitch is actually okay. It had an expected batting average of 196. It's great versus righties. I think his issue is versus the lefties. And again, it's the bunching of the split and the slider. In my mind, speed-wise is a little bit of an issue here. Potentially, if your command's not great, if you make mistakes when they're on time, that's when damage happens. And then in terms of answering the question of the why he's throwing it, is because you need to have a pitch that gets a whiff. I can speak to this a little bit because my cutter had a similar issue where it was one of my highest whiff pitches in my career, especially towards the end, but it was also one of my worst pitches in terms of run value because it got hammered when it was actually hit and when it was in the zone and when I couldn't command it exactly perfectly. So here's what I would recommend if I was Mize. I would say, yeah, don't lose your split. Throw your split, but let's pick our spots with it. Let's make sure that we've tunneled it properly to get chase out of it. Because ultimately you want people to, if this is a pitch that struggles in zone, you don't want them to swing at it in zone that much. So you want to find other things to throw in zone, and you want to set up tunnels to throw that split below the zone and have them chase it to continue to lean into its whiff generating abilities. All right. Tarek set a precedent, and he didn't even need to present the awards he had because he didn't need them. His numbers spoke for themselves. Yeah, and I've been doing a lot more thinking about the Skubal Arb case since yesterday. I've listened to other people talk about it, and I tend to agree with some of the takes I've heard that the number that the Tigers set was just too low, in my opinion. To put it below price, which was at 19.75, I believe, which was the highest ever pitcher Arb number, when you're well aware of the CBA stating that he could, go ahead and compare himself to all players' contracts now, you kind of had to know that for the arbiter to rule and to ultimately give Skubal below the record wasn't going to make a lot of sense. They could have pushed that midpoint number up to a more difficult decision, I think, for the arbitration panel had they come in at 22 million or 23 million. But I think they undershot it a little bit. I also think they didn't have any concept of where Boris was maybe going with this. I don't think he gave them a lot of information headed in to the room. But when you're arguing this case, what are you going to say? What are you going to say against him? He's been too good. He's been too good. All right, what else we got? Framber has also given up the most postseason home runs, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years. Well, he's been out there a lot. So, you got to give him credit for being out there a lot. Let's go find Mr. Valdez on Baseball Reference for a second because we can check out his postseason stuff. And this is a massive postseason sample size. Yeah, he's got a 4.34. Hasn't been perfect all the time, and you're right. He's gotten hit pretty hard recently. Yeah, his 2023 postseason was kind of a disaster. He had 1 start versus the Twins, got rocked. He had 2 starts versus Texas, got rocked, and he had 1 start versus Detroit and got kind of whacked too. So the last run through wasn't so good. 2022 he was a lot better. He pitched 2 starts and did great. 2021, which is what I was talking about, he pitched great in the CS. He actually did horrible in the World Series. So it's been a mixed bag, but he does have 85 postseason innings, which is a lot of experience. Yeah, I guess he hasn't been as dominant as I expected. But the experience will only help him. I don't think he's afraid of the postseason. He's gone all the way. And if you look at his numbers, it's mostly him getting hit a little bit more. Like his strikeouts and his walks are fine. So interesting to see that. All right, thanks for that. Can we talk about Puerto Rican new prospect with upside? Well, tell me who it is, and maybe we'll take a look in a little bit. All right, keep going. So is Framber a replacement of Skubal, and they still trading him, or are they going all in? I think they're going all in right now. I think you got to go all in. It's the 1 year. They're losing a whole bunch of free agents after this year. Tigers get to reset their payroll in a big way next season anyway. So, we talk about windows. If they punt on it now and they go do a half measure now and trade Skubal now, and I don't think there's any way they set themselves up for a better chance this year, and then who knows when they have this chance again. So. Oh my God, that's my niece, Everly. That's not how you spell it, but that's my niece. I think we've learned you can get away with a bad pitch as long as you don't spam it. So yeah, when we were talking about Mize, it's about picking your spots. And obviously it's an issue versus lefties. So there's also a world in which he's not doing enough work inside and guys are able to lean out over and scoop the split when it's a bad pitch. These are things that we'll have to watch, and I think we will definitely watch some Mize during the season, and we'll get a better idea of how that split works or doesn't work. Yeah, RV's not sticky, but it is. You do have to look at the results at some point. you know, and then, you know, I always try to look over, see if it's lucky or unlucky. Analytically, it's not horrible, but you saw in Stuff Plus, it's not great either. So this answers your question here, Dan. And this is another key point that Marcus brings up here about the arbitration numbers. If you took David Price's number and you, you know, laid inflation onto it, it would have been about 26 million. So this just speaks to their number being kind of unrealistically low, and I'm not really sure where they got that number from, and I think ultimately that kind of doomed them in this arbitration case for sure. I heard that he brought them, but he didn't present them or something. I don't know. Either way, it's pretty gangster, a la Big Time Timmy Jim for sure. All right, what else we got? Oh, this is what they think they maybe said. He can't pitch in 4/5 of the games. Yeah, but that's not like really what you're comparing an ARB, so kind of seems like a silly thing to even say. We're going to look at the WBC rosters probably after we're done talking about the Tigers, which we almost are. What do I think about teams running entirely right-handed rotations? Blue Jays, do teams need a lefty starter? I don't think it's a need. Astros won the World Series without a lefty reliever. I guess you'd like to have a variety of styles. You wouldn't want all your righties to be the same style. That would be bad. But I think it's possible to run righties out there if they're a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. You know, I personally I like lefties. I like having one in the rotation. A lot of the best hitters in the game are left-handed, but I don't think you just stretch for a lefty just to get a lefty. You have to get the right guy. You know, there's no general answer to this. If the Tigers aren't in a playoff spot by the deadline, Scoop will get traded then. I agree. I just can't see a world in which they're not in the playoff hunt by the trade deadline now, personally. What is the pitch taken / fouled off worth? Would you rather your starting pitcher give up a solo shot and finish the inning on 4 pitches or 0 runs, but a 30, 40, 50 pitch inning? I guess it's all context. You don't really ever want to give up runs. Of course, you want to stay pitch efficient, but if you give up 1 run every inning and you throw 4 pitches, that's 9 runs. It's a 9 ERA. You're not winning too many games like that. On the flip side of that, 30, 40, 50 pitch inning is not great either, obviously. You're going to have to run through a lot of pitchers if that's the case. But solo shots don't generally kill. And to answer this initial question, which to me is probably a little more interesting, what is a pitch taken fouled off worth? To me, I valued this a lot, especially foul balls. Foul balls gave me a lot of information. I think a foul ball had more value than necessarily a take. Sometimes a take, it's hard to tell whether that's an auto take or whether it's a full take or whether it's an approach-based take. So sometimes it's hard to read those, but a foul ball generally gives you some information. Is he early? Is he late? Is he under the ball? Is he over the ball? You know, can he catch up to this pitch? What adjustment will he make? Because oftentimes after a foul ball, a guy will reset. You'll get a little more information by his body language or by the way that he's taking his next practice swing or the way he wants to redig into the box. So you get a lot of read off of a foul ball besides just the strike. So I loved foul balls. Foul balls gave me a ton of information. I hope that's an answer that's worth listening to. Hassan said Scooble's comp brought up contracts up to 40 AAV. Of course, he's going to compare himself to Wheeler, DeGrom, Scherzer, all the guys that have been close or above 40, because he was able to do that over 5 years. And this is a good reason. Like if you have all righties, we were just talking about with the Blue Jays, Gosman and Trey are reverse splits. So again, you have all righties, but at least they're different styles. So I think that's a big deal. Do you think the Valdez signing is offensive to Scooble in a way? No, I mean, I do wonder what he felt when that came across the board the other night and what that meant for him. I wonder what he felt, but not insulting at all. If anything, it's good. He got 38 a year. Like, Scooble's a better pitcher than that. So, like, the floor for his contract next year is super high. Tigers dumbly went too low on their side on the ARB offer if they gone a little higher. That's how I feel, too. Totally feel. Oh, yeah. What's up, Cole? I remember you and your dad at Disney. That was great. Happy to have you around. I appreciate you hanging with us. If you don't have a lefty in the bullpen, you need a Tommy Kahnle type guy. Yeah, you need a reverse split guy for sure. Very important. If I were to get an AO0 jersey, do I get a portion? Hell no. That's going to go straight to Fanatics and MLB or whoever. Not to say we didn't already order those last night, though. We did. So we're getting excited. What are you usually thinking if a player already fouled off like 10 pitches and the at-bat is already like 15 pitches? I'm thinking just end this friggin' at-bat. Just hit the damn ball. Get a hit. Get it over with. I don't want to expend any more energy on you. For the most part, that's what I'm thinking about. Really, Boris didn't have to argue 27. He only had to argue over 25.5. That was the midpoint. So, you know, it's actually pretty easy with inflation plus price. I think makes sense, Marcus, what you're saying. Do you think a threat where the lockout is making the Tigers try to go for it this year? I mean, that could be a small factor. But I think ultimately this is a unique situation because, look, they were good last year. They had the best record in the AL for the majority of the year until they started to drop off. But now they're more playoff ready. If these two horses are ready, Tarek and Framber, great names by the way, then they're going to be tough to beat. All right. We got one more comment here, and then we'll move on maybe to some WBC talk. Trevor May had a great video about the Skubal Arb case a few weeks ago. Basically said if the Tigers won 22 mil, they would have won without having to try. I don't agree with him that automatically means they would have won, but it would have given them a much better shot. The number would have been higher. You can start to do the math and the mental gymnastics of discrediting his value back to a certain point, but back down below 25.5 it's just a no. Well, why is somebody ringing my doorbell? Nobody's here. Let me look at my Ring camera. Who is that? We might have to put you guys on pause for a second if this is a package or something. Some sort of delivery. All right, just give me 1 sec. I'm gonna go run to the door. I come right back. Enjoy the music for a sec. Did you get that? Okay, thank you. Never mind. All right. What was I just talking about? I settled the one time I was in ARB for 1.3. I think I filed at 1.5 and they filed at 1, and then we settled before we ever got in the room, and then I signed an extension the next year through what did I say? Through my Tommy John rehab, I signed an extension. That was it. So no more ARB for me. I'll tell you what, though, it's a crazy process. There's no doubt about that. It's the guy asking if your bags are by the door. All right, we're still talking about this. Someone reported yesterday that Boris cut off negotiations after the first filing offer of $19 million, so the Tigers couldn't even go higher if they wanted to. They still could have tried to negotiate. Obviously, it looks like Boris was dead set on not negotiating, which is, you can do that in this situation. The team can go dark on you, or the player can go dark on the team. So this looks like this was calculated by Scott. But still, the number that gets put in, like, that's up to the Tigers. They obviously didn't know what was coming here. They could have definitely went a little higher. They didn't think this one through very well. So I'm going to be honest, Spectre, and maybe I shouldn't say this. I don't think you should do it. I think the quality could be better. I think it's also not 1,000% sure that I'm going to make it. But I don't know. A lot of the jerseys are fire. Like, if I was from the Dominican, I'd get me like a Caminero jersey or something. So anyway, if Framber got 38, Skubal getting 50. Well, with the numbers we've seen lately, you can't rule it out, right? You can't rule it out. Some huge number with deferrals and signing bonuses and probably a Dodger jersey. Okay. let's move on. We've talked about this enough. We like the Tigers. I had liked Framber from the beginning. I was driving that home for a while. But it is time to talk WBC rosters. Somebody sent me this yesterday on the Discord, and we are going to make a tier list as we go. This isn't my official preview, but this is some fun. This is going to be fun to do. So we'll go through the rosters and we will make some tiers. All right, let me get rid of this ad. Don't need that. And we're just going to go through them in order in which they pop up on here. Man, the ad city is just brutal. All right, so that's weird. There's more information than this on Australia. I guess it's not all. Well, here's Brazil. Brazil has an interesting team in that there's a few names here that you might recognize, a.k.a. Dante Bichette Jr. Look at that mane. Look at that mane on that kid. Former first-rounder from the Yankees back in the day. He's not in pro ball anymore. His brother's a rich man on the Metros, but he'll be in there. There's a high school guy in here, Joseph Contreras, son of Jose Contreras, former Cuban Yankees, White Sox, world champion, great splitter. Apparently he's a Vanderbilt commit, and he's going to get a chance to pitch in the WBC as a high school age kid, which is dope. Dope. You see these names. I don't know a lot of these names, but it's intriguing because they have some MPB guys. They have a big mix. They have some youth, and they're going to be in I better study up on them if I have to face any of these dudes because they're going to be in my bracket. That is Brazil. Okay. Also in my bracket, we'll just stay in my bracket for now. Brazil, and then we need Great Britain. Let's go look at the Brits. Koperniak, Robinson, Wiley, Nate Eaton, who I'm a big fan of, at third. Ward, Jazz, Mr. Jazz at second. B.J. Murray, Harry Ford, Trace Thompson, DHing. I can't say I know a ton of these pitchers, but I know the Beck brothers. Tristan Beck and Brendan Beck are probably two of the higher end guys. Vance Worley, that's a name blast from the past. Vance Worley is in there. So, this team actually performed a little better right at the last tournament than we expected. And we'll see how they are this year. I think their jerseys hopefully will be a little bit better. Brazil has a 17-year-old literal high schooler. I mean, just a really, really cool, really cool opportunity for a young player. And thank you from the Far East. Very excited for this. Very, very excited. This is kind of like the last dance for me. So I'm doing every single thing I can to get out there and show well and have a blast. Jerseys still suck, Jane. I think they're doing a little bit better. Yeah, I wish is there another site I should use? If there is, somebody drop it in here. But I've been partial to this one for a little bit. All right. Also in my bracket is Team Mexico. And this is a strong team. Looking at this team, this is going to be probably our stiffest competition to advance out of the bracket other than USA. And I say us as in Italy. But look at this squad. Randy, Alec Thomas, and Duran. That's a solid freaking outfield. Urias, Ortiz, Gonzalez, Aranda, Kirk, Tellez. I mean, this is a really good team. This is a really, really, really good team. In the rotation, I mean, it's not like super high end, but these are all reliable big leaguers. Assad, Urquidy, Walker, Taj, Bradley. Bullpen, names that, pop out to me. Munoz will be the closer. My guy Bernie, Brennan Bernardino. Lefty setup man, Duarte, or Gerardo Reyes. Robert Garcia is really good, both of them. And Vodnik is a 100-mile-an-hour option. So Mexico, I don't know, where's Alex Verdugo? And a couple others, but this is a very strong team. It's going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to have huge representation in Houston, I would imagine, at the ballpark too. This is going to be a straight-up home game every time they play. So excited for Mexico. And then we'll go ahead and look at Italy. All right, here it is, Team Paisan. So finally you get to see this team. I think Vinny talked about it a little bit yesterday on MLB Network when they did the roster release. There's a lot of lefties on this team. This is going to be an extremely left-handed lineup, but it's a nice, young, dynamic, probably pretty good defensive squad. DeCenzo, Marcy, and Canzone, Fisher, Sagis, Mastrobuoni, Pasquatch, Teal, and Caglione as the main starters. Nola, probably, Nicky Lopez is on the bench as well. I see this. Oh my God, Nick, what a comment in the chat. The benches are there. They're listed. They're kind of down here below. But Aaron Nola is the best pitcher that Team Italy's ever had as a starter in this tournament. So it's very cool that he's a part of it. De Luca, Lorenzen, Aldegheri. It's going to be a nice little group in our bullpen. Besides me, obviously, we got Ercolani is an interesting prospect. Altavia, Graceffo, Weissert, La Sorsa, Festo, Marinaccio, Nicholas. These are all big leaguers. So very excited to be a part of this and help these guys out. And one thing I will say is we're gonna have good vibes on this team. Gonna have a lot of speed. I think we're gonna play a little small ball. We're gonna be a very fun team to watch. And maybe we can surprise some people big time in the pool. Maybe we can surprise some people. Now, the one issue is you do have to face this team. We've gone over this team a lot. We finally found out about the last two inclusions, which were Paul Goldschmidt and Michael Wacha, two guys that I love, and I'm excited for them to get their chance to represent Team USA this time around. But this is the dream team, probably minus Mookie Betts and like maybe a Garrett Crochet. Maybe you could quibble a little bit on some of the relievers. But at the end of the day, this is a bomb squad. Absolute bomb squad. Carroll, Buxton, Judge, Bregman, Witt, Gunnar, Bryce, Cal, and Schwarber. And there's tons of other guys on the bench that are really, really good. Skeen, Skubal, Webb, and Ryan is the best starting group they've ever had. The bullpen is absolutely silly. Keller, Holmes, Kirsch, Bednar, Spire, Clevenger, Whitlock, Jax, Wacha, Mason Miller, Matthew Boyd, and Nolan McLean. We wish Mike Trout was out there, but apparently he wasn't going to get the insurance. So that's a little bit of a bummer. But also on the bench in here, guys, I didn't say Bryce Terang, Ernie Clement. These are excellent bench players for them to have. Goldie and Will Smith as well, and PCA. So it's as stacked a USA team as they've ever had. And without further ado, let me start putting them into some of the tiers. So no doubt at the very tippy top of the tiers is going to be USA. I'm just going to put in the teams from this pool that we just saw. I would put Mexico solidly in the, I don't know what S is. I guess that's the superstar group. What does S mean? Anyway, I would put them there, and I would put Italy there right next to them, to be honest with you. Great Britain, I'm going to put them as a C, and Brazil as a D. So that's my first thoughts on the tier list. Right now, I reserve the right to move them around, obviously. But yeah, that's where we're at for that. Let's see what we got in the chat real quick. So can we expect AO to strike out Judge? Well, I've only punched that ticket one time. If I do face him, I mean, we actually saw him at Yankee Stadium not that long ago. And he said that if he faces me, he's going to give me a little smile. And I'm like, bro, like, I cannot break my concentration if I have to get you out. So we'll see how it goes. Makes sense. Mexico and Italy, basically the same flag. Keeps it easy for me. No Yan Gomes for Brazil anymore. That's true. Sad. Mexico tier A for me. They might be. I might have to push them up. All right, let's putz around a little bit at some of these other teams in the mix. Hold on, let me go back to my rosters. All right, so in the Puerto Rican bracket, so Puerto Rico, obviously there's not going to be a Correa, a Baez, or a Lindor, so that really, really brings down this team's star power. But they still have good ball players. This is a baseball, obsessed place. They're going to have a good team overall. I think it does knock them down a little bit in their chances to win the whole thing. But this is what they're rolling out there right now. Helio Ramos, Brian Torres, Eddie Rosario. Also, no Kike Hernandez hurts too. I forgot to mention that one as well. Nolan, Arroyo, Castro, Emmanuel Rivera. That's a pretty solid infield. I mean, it's not superstar, but it's pretty good. Already retired Martin Maldonado catching, which gives them a little bit of that Yachty dynamic of the player-coach behind the plate. Also, Yachty is the manager of this team, and he's a maestro. So, also Carlos Cortez, a guy who I used to know from Mets big league spring training. Now, the starting pitching and the pitching in general, the depth has always been a little bit of an issue, but they have some really good relievers here. Here's the starters. Rivera, Elmer Rodriguez, who's a Yankee prospect, Barrios, De Leon, and Seth Lugo. And then in the bullpen, I mean, Edwin, obviously really cool to see him come back. And he's the ace, reliever of this tournament. And hopefully everything goes well for him. And really cool he gets to play in front of his hometown fans. Also Fernando Cruz, Jorge Lopez, Giovanni Moran. Yaxel Rios is a guy I played with on the Red Sox, throws 100 with a split. So they'll have some arms, but no doubt this team is a little bit lower end than it was before. And I think for that reason alone, I'm going to put them in the A tier. But I don't think I might have to rearrange that in my thinking a little bit. Barrios didn't make it. There's a few inaccuracies. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't think Barrios would be playing with his injury thing from last year. Okay, so also in this bracket is Colombia. Colombia, sneaky, always pretty good. They have more big leaguers than you would remember. Elias Diaz, Jorge Afalo, Donovan Solano, Gio Urshela, Harold Ramirez, Jose Quintana, Chris Matt. There's also Julio Teheran, who's been around for a long time. Oh, here's some information. Barrios is playing second round. Okay. Zuniga is a guy who throws really hard. Like this, they have their own winter league. Like they have pro ball players. We played them in the last tournament. They were a very competent team. They're not like super high end in terms of star big leaguers, but they'll be solid. And I would put them on a kind of a similar tier as Italy. I think I might put Mexico up one more tier. I think I'm agreeing with Nick here a little bit in the chat. So let me go back to my tiers. I'm going to go ahead and move Mexico up to here. And I'm going to take Colombia, who I'm pretty sure one of these is Colombia and one of these is Venezuela. My God. Let me go look at I don't want to look at this ad. What is this? I want to go look at the map. Okay, the stripes is Colombia. That's what I thought. So we're going to put Colombia right there next to Italy. All right, next team to look at. We're going to save Canada for a minute, but we're going to look at Panama and Cuba. So first we'll look at Panama. Another team with a winter league. Like right now they're in the Caribbean Series, so they have a lot of people that are playing. They're probably similar to Colombia, but a little bit less talent overall, at least high-end talent. The names you'll remember. Enrique Bradford, who's a big prospect. He was a Vanderbilt guy. He's a very fast leadoff type. Excited to see him on the big stage. So then also in the infield, you'll know all four of these guys. Yohan Camargo, Edmundo Sosa, Jose Caballero, one of the most annoying players in the big leagues, but I like him now because he's on the Yankees. Christian Betancourt. Ivan Herrera is a really good catcher. Jamie Barria, Logan Allen, who's getting on this team, which is pretty cool for Logan Allen. Going to be on this squad. Other than that, Javi Guerra is a name you might remember. Paulo Espino. I would put this team probably in the fourth tier. They're not in the very bottom, but I feel like they're a little bit behind, personally, Colombia in my mind. Yeah, stripes Colombia, stripes with emblem is Venezuela. I just figured that out. But yeah, these are the famous Panamanian players. Rod Carew, Mariano Rivera, Carlos Lee. Now, Rod Carew did grow up in New York, Lehman High School, so we claim him as well. But yes, Panamanian descent. Miguel Amaya is another catcher on this team. Thanks for shouting that out, Marcus. But Carlos Lee, I mean, El Caballo, and obviously Mariano, the greatest relief pitcher of all time. So let's go ahead and move Panama into our tiers. I'm going to put them in C. I'm tempted to drop Great Britain even lower, but I'm putting them in C right now. That's my personal opinion. And now let's go look at Cuba. So Cuba, we're not going to know a ton of the names because they have their own league And obviously, we don't know much of what goes on over there. There's a few defectors that were now allowed to go back and play, like Yohan Moncada's on this team. Ultimately, I love watching this group of players because there's usually some talented guys that haven't defected yet, and it's very exciting to watch that. Yario Rodriguez we got to see in this tournament for the first time. Aroldis Chapman for the first time. I believe Cespedes, Gurriel when he was a young buck. So it's cool to see these guys. Some fun names in here that you might not know about. Levon Moniello, who's one of the best pitchers in NPB, will be here. I think he plays for SoftBank. He's a very exciting player. Is Alexi playing? I think he is. I think he's the OG in this tournament, right? Alexi Ramirez. Yep, there he is, infielder. Alexi Ramirez. Alexi! So very cool that he's playing. He'll be the oldest man in the tournament. Didn't want that title. But Yaro Rodriguez, Yohan Lopez. Cuba's really fallen off, though, in international competition. I don't feel like they have enough depth anymore to really play. Moniello is kind of the big name, in my opinion. The guy that if he were to come to Major League Baseball would be getting paid a lot of money and would be a real player because he's a dominant guy for SoftBank Hawks out in NPB. Going to be nice to see Enrique and Panama and Bazan on Team Australia, big time at bats. So it's really cool because, yeah, you get some of these top prospects that get mixed in with these teams. Actually, one of the things I want to do is I want to go watch my outing, my 3-inning outing, which somebody shot me on YouTube yesterday in the 09 WBC when I was 23 years old versus Venezuela, because it is important to note that while this is a very serious tournament and it's awesome for everybody, veterans included, you know, superstars included, it's really freaking cool for the guys that aren't in the big leagues yet and they get to feel like they're in the big leagues for a couple weeks, and it can be a really big stepping stone confidence-wise to the next step in your careers. Ariel Martinez also plays in NPB. He's the right fielder here, huh? Okay. So, interesting team. I'm going to put Cuba pretty low. I don't think they have enough star power right now to be in the same level as Colombia or Italy, in my opinion. Maybe they could be a B, but that's where I have them for now. Is Alexi the only guy playing this time who was in the first ever WBC? He's got to be, because I wasn't in it. So hard to imagine there being anybody else. This is just important, too, just to mention. R.I.P. Mickey Lolich, one of the great lefties of all time. Outdueled Bob Gibson in some World Series. And since we talked about the Tigers earlier, it's important to remember Mickey, great Tiger. Okay, last team in this group is Canada. Now, I think Canada is actually quite strong. This might be the strongest team they've ever put together. I have to talk to my guy Morneau, who's the hitting coach, see what he's feeling. But this team this might be the strongest team they've ever put together. Tyler O'Neill, Denzel Clark, Owen Casey in the outfield. That's a young, dynamic group with some offensive pump, and then Clark's one of the best center fielders out there. Toro, Lopez, Julian, and Naylor in the infield. Hicks and Matt Davidson is DHing. He's been playing in Korea. He used to be a two-way guy. Cal Quantrill, Jamison Tyone, Logan Allen, Michael Soroka in the rotation. I mean, those are all big-time dudes. And then in the bullpen, Matt Brash is on this team. How do I get rid of this ad? Rob Jastrzynski, Philippe Aumont, who's been around forever. A really cool name that I like to see in here was James Paxton, the Big Maple. He's coming out of retirement to play, similar to me, so that's really cool to see. But I really like this team. I think that they're in a higher tier than a lot of people realize. This is a team that's going to play with some fight, and I think they have a good shot of advancing out of their group. I think they're the second best team in their group. They're right there with Puerto Rico in my mind. Adam Macko. Bullpen is rough, but this is definitely the best they put together. I mean, so it's funny. In 09, when we played Canada, they had some bigger names, right? There was Joey Votto, Jason Bay, Justin Morneau, Russell Martin. Like, those are big names, but it dropped off really fast into almost nothing. I think Scott Richmond was their ace at the time. They have real pitchers this time around, and they have a lot of young guys coming up and at them. It would be nice if Jonah Tong was a part of this maybe the next time, but you got to feel good if you're a Canadian fan for a very entertaining team in this tournament. No Jordan Romano. I mean, realistically, he needs to, like, make the Angels. So I think that's part of it. All right. Oh, Canada. I'm putting them in the tier right there with Mexico and Puerto Rico. I'm moving them ahead of Italy and ahead of Colombia. I feel pretty good about that. Yeah, Richmond was the ace and didn't even pitch in 09. They had no pitching in that year, and that ultimately undid them. Naylor brothers, they have a good team. They have a good team. They have a very exciting team this year. Philippe Aumont, blast from the past, used to throw 100, huge prospect at one point. I believe it was a Phillies prospect, really big righty. Anyway, that was Team Canada. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next pool, which will be the one out of Miami, and we'll start with the Jews, the Israelites. So it's just such an eclectic group of people that get to represent Israel. A lot of different ways you can become eligible for this squad, and they tend to have a kind of a fun, bootstrapped, American team, basically. Dean Kramer, Robert Stock on the mound. You got Bader patrolling center, my buddy Troy Johnston in left. Garrett Stubbs on this team, Matt Mervis, Spencer Horowitz. Like, there's some guys. They're going to be an interesting team for sure. Tommy Canley's in the bullpen. My guy Matt Bowman, one of my buddies, is in this bullpen. Eli Morgan. They'll be an interesting team. They'll have a lot of fans down in Miami. I can't put them on too high of a tier, but this team will be a tough team to face. They'll be annoying, and they have some good ball players, so it'll be interesting to see how they do, as they've always been a little better than people were ready for in this tournament. So let's go ahead and move Israel. I'm going to put them in the same tier as I'm going to leave them there for now, but I'm not sure yet. Not sure yet where I want them to ultimately put. And Ian Kinsler is the manager. I actually spoke to Ian Kinsler. They recruited me for this team a little bit as well, my wife being Jewish and everything, but ultimately I'm not Jewish and I'm not from Israel, so it didn't feel right. Felt like I had to stick with my my actual roots, which is Italy. So, oh snap, he stepped down because I talked to Kinsen a while ago. So Osmus is managing. Zach Weiss starting. Okay, I mean they're gonna have an intriguing little squad for sure. All right, Israel. Now we're gonna look at Nicaragua. This is a pretty good little pool here. All right, so here's Nicaragua. They have kind of a funny team because their MLB star power is in the form of Mark Vientos and Jeter Downs, who's played a little bit in the big leagues, and that's it. If he's even been in the big leagues, maybe just a touch. Chester Cuthbert's got some big league time. Other than that, it's a lot of prospects. Erasmo Ramirez is a real pitcher. JC Ramirez, I think he's kind of old, but he's on this team. So I can't put them very high, but again, like this, they have their own pro league. They'll be okay. They'll be okay. Erasmo. Love Erasmo. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Nicaragua. I'm just going to go ahead and put them probably in that D tier. I think they're pretty low down on the tiers. They're probably better than Brazil, but somebody's got to be on the bottom of the barrel, right? All right. After Nicaragua, we will look at the Netherlands. So the Netherlands, basically, this is all the old Braves players. Netherlands Antilles, managed by Andrew Jones. His son, Drew Jones, will be on this team, which will be exciting to watch. A very high draft pick, guy who's kind of struggled with the Diamondbacks through the minors, but he's a big talent guy, so excited to watch him. Obviously, they have the guys that you've seen for years on this squad. Profar, Rafaela, Gregorius, Bogarts, Ozzy Albies, Scope. There's a Jonathan Scope, as well as Charlon Scope, I think is his brother, Chadwick Tromp. They'll have Kenley Jansen in the bullpen. They'll have Sharon Martis in the bullpen, who's a guy who's been around for a while. They usually struggle a little bit with the depth, but they're usually very good upper-level team. I haven't ranked Dominican yet. They're going to be in the top tier, trust me. Netherlands have an offense. I think that's the big thing about them. They'll be an interesting team to see if they can pitch enough. I'm not seeing any pitching that I've recognized. So I'm going to move them into a decent tier because of this offensive upside, but I don't think they have a real shot to win the entire thing. All the boys from Aruba and Curacao. Antoine Kelly touches 100 with Ride, probably their ace. There he is, Antoine Kelly. So pretty cool. All right, let's get the Neaters into the tier list. The Neaters. What's their flag look like again? It's the stripes, right? Yeah, it's this one. I'm gonna put them here. I don't think they're quite as good as Canada because of their overall depth. I think they're probably the best team. They're close to the best team in Tier B, I would say, so far that we have. All right, one more team, two more teams to go from this pool in Miami, and these are probably the best two. First, we're going to look at the Venezuelans. Now, we played against Venezuela when I was with Team USA last tournament in Miami, and the game was the most electric game I think I've ever been a part of, non-playoff edition. They don't have everybody playing. They've had some insurance issues. There's no Altuve. They don't have quite the full squad, but look at the squad. This is a big league all-star team in a lot of ways. Jackson Chourio, Ronald Acuna Jr., Willie Abreu in the outfield, studs. Suarez, Garcia, Jimenez, Arise, studs. Salvi and Glaber, studs. Pitching, Erod, Herman Marquez, Pablo Lopez, Ranger Suarez, Emmanuel De Jesus, Antonio Senzatella, Daniel Palencia, Jose Alvarado, Jose Buto. I mean, this is a very good team. Angel Zerpa. Like, to me, they're pretty close to being on the very, very top tier. I might even include them in the top tier. What do you guys think? Would you put them on the top? Oh, honk ball. That's for the Neaters. What do you guys think about this? S tier. Marcus says S tier for Team Venezuela. They're pretty close. They're pretty close. And it looks like we have a second vote for S. That's how I'm leaning as well. So we're going to put them on the very, very highest tier. Wonder if there's a mental risk there for a high school kid to potentially get shelled by a powerhouse. Yeah, I mean, it could happen, but failure is part of how you grow. And honestly, getting rocked is fine. Like, it's not the end of the world to give it up or to really get crushed by a great group of players. If anything, it might inspire you to work harder. So, I don't know. It could be a confidence builder, but likely, even if it goes bad, you can say, well, shit, nothing was expected out of me anyway. A lot of these guys are saying top of A now. We have some A people saying for Venezuela. I think they're the best team, clearly, if they're in the A pool, in the A tier. But I think they should be on the top tier. I'm going to put them there. Steel sharpens steel. You see it. You get it, Brian. You're with me, buddy. Appreciate you there. Wilson Contreras could start over Arise. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do. Arise has been a good player for Venezuela in these tournaments. But I'm going to keep Venezuela in S for now, and then when we get the full look at it, at the end, maybe we'll move it around a little bit more. All right, so the next team, obviously, is a slam dunk S team. When you really see the full breadth of this team, and we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, it's ridiculous. And it is one of my favorite places on earth, the República Dominicana. My God, what a team. Soto, J-Rod, Tatis, Machado, Perdomo, Marte, Vlad. Right now, Agustin Ramirez. I know they're going to have some other catchers there too. Junior Caminero, Bayo, Sanchez, Sevi, Alcantara. And then I mentioned the bullpen is straight gasoline. Uribe, Abreu, Doval, Estevez, Santana, Uceta, Alvarado, Soto, Brazaban, Dominguez, Peralta. I mean, it's straight gasoline. Jose Ramirez, I'm not sure what's going on, but I've heard some talk that he will join the team in round 2. Some other players that we haven't mentioned yet that are also on this roster. Austin Wells, which is so freaking cool because he is an American dude, but he has Dominican descent, Dominican blood, the sangre flowing through his system, and he gets to go hang out with these guys. He's going to have so much more street cred in the clubhouse, and I'm jealous of this. This is awesome for Wellesley. So Wells is in there. Carlos Santana's on this roster. Jeremy Pena's on this roster. Johan Rojas is on this roster. Miguel Amaya's on this roster. Webster Rivas might be on this roster as a catcher. This is a very exciting team to watch. You got to put them up there. You got to put them up there at the very tippy top. They're going to be one of the favorites along with Japan and US, of course. So fairly easy to throw them up there. And that brings us to our last tier. Our last group of teams from the Far East, from the other side of the world. We could add additional tiers. We could fix that. Did I skip over O'Neal Cruz? Probably. Does Dominican have best hitting? It's between them and US, right? It's pretty damn close. You compare the two lineups, it's pretty tight. Pretty tight. But I mean, I don't know. I think Dominican might have the best lineup. They really might. They really might. All right, so now we are down to our final group. We looked at Australia. They don't have the whole roster up here for some reason. It looks like it hasn't been loaded in there. I've seen it. There's only a few big leaguers. So like, I don't know really where to put these groups. Where do you guys think we should put Australia in the tier ranking? I don't think they're a D, but I think they're probably a C. I think they're probably a C. So I'm going to throw them in there for now. Liam. All right. Let's go look at Chinese Taipei. Now, I don't know any of these players except for Yu Chang, Stuart Fairchild. I don't really know a lot of these guys. But you know what's weird is they have a pretty good, they have a really high international ranking, like world ranking. So I don't know if they're on the very, very bottom either. But we need to find a place for them, for Chinese Taipei. I'm putting them on the bottom for now. I think they're pretty low. I think they're pretty low on this list, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. They won the last international tournament over Japan. The projected lineup is BS, though. No way the defense looks like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm on a third-party website. So, again, we don't know how these teams will really lay out, but hopefully this should... I mean, it's good for the exercise of it all. Adam, if you win the WBC, do you get money or a medal? I think you just get the medal. You get a little bit of money for participating, but it's not anything really crazy. But you get the medal. F tier, D, A, D. How? They just won against last year versus Japan. But it wasn't versus the Japan big league guys, was it? I feel like it's not that strong. So they got to be C or D. Out of respect for now, I'll move them up to C. I'll give you respect, him double J. No problem. Move them up to C. Okay, so that leaves us with a few more teams. Czech Republic, they're going to probably be a D, right? They just barely, where are they? Czech. They just barely qualified for this tournament. We don't know any of these names. So they seem like a pretty easy D to throw in there. They're very unlikely to advance out of their pool. But we had some fun moments with teams like this in the last tournament. Guys who literally aren't baseball players getting to face Shohei. So that's really cool. So we'll just go ahead and move the Czechs right down into the D tier. And that brings us to the top two teams in the Tokyo pool, Korea and Japan. Let's go look at Korea, North Korea, obviously. Let's go look at Korea. Now, they have their own league. It's arguably the third best league in the world. So this is a very good team. This is the best of what KBO has to offer of the local players. So I actually think you got to put this team on the B level. Like, they're very good. I think they're very good. They're either a C or a B, but I don't know what you guys think. I love some of the big names they do have. Jung-Hoo Lee, Haesung Kim. There's also a Hun Jin Ryu sighting. One of my favorites. Look at this boss right here. Guy was a boss. Guy was the man. So, excited to watch him sling the rock again from the left side. But, you know, ultimately, I just want to give respect to this group. This is a very pro baseball group. So far, we have some C's. We have some B's in the chat. I think I'm going to put them in the B tier. No. I said definitely not North Korea. I said it's Korea, obviously South Korea, not North Korea. Come on. We all know. All right, let's go ahead and move them up. I'm putting them in the A tier. I'm putting them in the A tier, guys. A lot of people want me to put them in the B tier. I think Korea deserves more respect than that. Japan is easy. Japan, we go straight to the A tier. We took a lot of time to go ahead and look at we took a lot of time to look at Japan already. Samurai Japan, the defending champs, the 3-time winners of this tournament. And we went over a lot of their players individually. This is a great squad. They're a clear A tier. They're a co-favorite along with DR and USA. They have it all. They have it all. They have pitching. They have defense, of course. They have young guys like Sato. They have, obviously the GOAT in Shohei. They have one of the other GOATs in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Murakami's on this squad. Just a really good group. Okamoto, Seiya Suzuki. This is a pro team. This is going to be the hardest team to beat. They don't beat themselves. They've been practicing for a while. They're going to dominate the Tokyo region in the pool play, and then they're going to come to America looking for their 4th title, and they're the team to beat. Don't be twisted by the star-studded rosters of US and DR. This is still the team to beat in my mind. They are clearly S tier. They're the best team in terms of the team you have to respect the most right now, and they're fully warmed up to Dano's point. Yep, they've won 3 WBCs, Tommy Gunn. There's been 5 WBCs so far, 3 championships for Japan, 1 for Dominican, and 1 for US. And that's it. This is the 6th iteration, should be the most exciting one. And if you're in Japan, you got to watch it on Netflix, because Netflix bought the rights to all of the Japanese broadcasts of WBC, knowing that this is going to be a huge event for them, as it always is. I could not be more excited for this event. This event is going to be awesome. Anything can happen. We've seen it. The games are a lot more intense right off the rip than people are usually prepared for, and they're just so cool. This tournament is so cool. It's come such a long way from when I first started playing in it back in 2009. So I was curious if we wanted to go ahead and watch me pitch against Team Venezuela in 2009 for a second and do a little short breakdown on that. Maybe we'll finish with that. Quickly, let me go look at trade rumors to just make sure we didn't miss anything, which I'm sure we did. But anyway, real quick, these are my final tiers for the moment. This isn't my WBC preview. Like, we're not going pool by pool yet, but this is the clear tiers in my mind. I did kick Venezuela up to S tier because I think they're better than those A tiers teams. So I got US, Venezuela, DR, and Japan at the top. Puerto Rico, Mexico, Canada, and Korea below them. Italy, Colombia, Israel, and Netherlands below them. Then Great Britain, Panama, Cuba, Australia, and we have Chinese Taipei or Taiwan in C. And then we have Brazil, Czech, and Nicaragua pulling up the rear. So that's what I got right now. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. I think in Canada, it's going to be on Sportsnet. So, also I saw this. Baez is out for the cannabis. It's absurd. It's 2026. What are we doing? But they're under Olympic testing, so it's a little bit of a different scenario here in this. All right, let me go look real quick back at my trade rumor and see what we got. Cubs minor league deal season. There was a couple quick signings. They're not really huge signings, but a couple quick signings to mention really quick. IKF goes to the Red Sox. He's going to be kind of like a roving backup infielder type. I know the Red Sox fans immediately were like, what the hell is this? We don't want this player. But I think, look, IKF's a pretty solid backup type of guy. He joins this bench group: Connor Wong, David Hamilton, IKF, and Yoshida. So he's a right-handed infielder replacement, can kind of move all over. Pretty easy fit here. Not going to raise their ceiling, but it's going to help them as well. I did also see that they signed Brendan Rodgers for a little competition for a little right-handed infield depth as well. So I'm not going to touch a ton on IKF. He's just a weird player. We'll look at him for 1 second. Obviously, everybody's on his case, with the third base thing and the Game 7 of the World Series. But I don't know. It's just a weird offensive profile. Like, he's trying to do an Arise. No whiff, no K. The only issue is even his expected batting average is only in the 40th percentile. He's literally first percentile in exit velo and expected slug. So he hits it, but there's no damage there. So he is what he is. He's a rover who can play a bunch of positions. He won't strike out, but that's kind of about it at this point. The shine has definitely come off of his profile somewhat over the last few years. The other move is Miguel Andujar. Miguel Andujar was quietly pretty dang good last year, and he goes and signs with the Padres. So I think that's a pretty sneaky move. I mentioned Miggy was a little bit more solid than people realized last year. In 2025, I don't even look at the expected numbers, but the real on-field numbers. In 321 ABs, 318, 352, 470, 822 OPS with 10 homers. He's always been a pure hitter. When I joined the Yankees, everybody was telling me this is our best hitter. Of course, then he immediately got Wally pipped by Gio Urshela, and we never really saw him again. But I agree, to some extent, he's a pure hitter, pure line drive stroker, crushes, I shouldn't have said that, but crushes lefties. Just a good guy to have. Not a great defender, -6 range, outs above average. But I do think he fills a little bit of a need for the Pods, as the NL West continues to look pretty dang competitive this year. They have him at DH, which is nice because you don't want him really playing the field. But he's good. He's good. This was a good signing, good line drive hitter. Very opportunistic move by the Padres. I'm a fan of this move. There's a world in which Andujar could become a really valuable piece over the next several years. He's just turning 31. Line drives all over the field, as I mentioned. Pretty good ball player. So good move by the Padres. They strengthen their offense. And they're trying to take another run at the Dodgers. We'll see how they do. We will see how they do. To be fair for the Red Sox, they just watch IKF fumble his base running. I mean, I get it. He's not hot right now in the streets. But his job is basically to be a backup infielder and kind of roam around, put the ball in play when he's in there. So that's going to be the biggest thing. And I think here's the thing. They're comparing it to the fact that they didn't get Bregman, blah, blah, blah. They didn't get Bo, didn't get Pete Alonso, didn't trade for Marte. So it's not what they were expecting. So I get it. It's not exciting, but let's see how it works out for them. He's definitely going to fill a need. Padres replaced Arise with Andujar. Great upgrade by them. I agree. I think Miggy's on an upward trajectory, so I'm curious to watch how this one plays out. But I like him. I also saw this trade, the Blaze Alexander to the Orioles. Orioles gave up a bunch of pitching talent in this trade, sort of a weird trade for them. I don't have a lot of insight. It's not like I've watched much of Blaze Alexander play the outfield. So I don't have a great feel for him. He's still a bench player for the Orioles. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to comment on that one. So we're running out of time here. I have about 10 minutes. I got to go get my kids. So I think let's have a little fun and let's try to dig up that YouTube video of Ottavino pitching back in the day for Team Italy. So let's see if I can find that on YouTube real quick. And we'll take a quick look at that. Italy versus Venezuela. WBC 2009. Boop. This should be it. All right. Here we are. So we played Venezuela. This was the third game of the pool. We were 1-1 at the time. We had played Venezuela once already. It was a little bit of a different format. And I drew the start in this game. So this is the lineup I had to face. Look at these OGs right here. So this was probably my first foray into real big league baseball. This is when I was really, really nervous. I'd only been to AA, I believe, at this point. And look at this lineup. This was all big league OGs. Andy Chavez, Melvin Mora, Bobby Abreu, Miggy, Maglio, Carlos Guillen, Jose Lopez, Ramon Hernandez, Cesar Torres. They had Carlos Gonzalez on the bench. They're a very strong team. So anyway, this was Ottavino pitching against them. And when I watched this yesterday, it was funny to watch myself, 23 years old. We'll let there be we can have a little volume on this. Throwing out of the windup, which is something most people have never seen me do. Wearing 54 is something nobody ever saw me do. We did have Francisco Cervelli, the current Italian manager, who was back behind the plate, catching me in this game. I'm getting squeezed a little bit early, and I do get in a little bit of trouble here. But a couple things stood out to me watching myself from 17 years ago. First thing is, my stride is directly towards home plate, which is not my style. My style is more crossbody, lower arm angle, east-west action. What's funny is this was kind of the delivery that the Cardinals had me working on at the time, which was to be more straight up and down, use my height to my advantage, drive that ball downhill. Personally, I just think it made me a worse pitcher. It made my fastball not as good. But you'll see in this video, as I start to cook a little bit here, the breaking ball is a little slurvy, but it has some power to it, has some drop to it, which is something I didn't have as my career went on. Everything was more east-west, frisbee action. This one's more up-down. The unlock of it is just the fact that I was over the ball because of the higher arm angle, so I could spin the ball at a different angle. I could create more of a downward spin on it, and that's how I was able to generate some of the good breaking pitches you'll see when we get to it. All right, so here's me versus Melvin Mora. If they knew anything, if they had any scouting, they could have just stole third and wouldn't have had to waste a bunt here. But this is 09, so we are in the old school style of baseball at this point, and they are going to do small ball, and they are going to bunt them over to third here, because that's just what you did at this point in baseball history. This is important to mention. Buck Martinez just retired, so he's not going to be on the air this year. He's already gone. Look at Cervelli like a cat pouncing on that bunt. And now we have a man on third and one out, and now I have Bobby Abreu. How full was it? Much bigger crowd versus Canada, of course, being in Canada. But still not full. Still not full. A lot of people were not into this tournament yet. I think if this exact same tournament came back to Canada now, it would be raucous. But it was very different at the time. It wasn't popular yet. So here he is, Bobby Abreu. Now I remember when I was doing my scouting for this game, looking at it, and he had seen something like 5,000 first pitches or something in his major league career, and he had swung it like 2% of them. So the goal was just to throw a first pitch strike. You knew he wasn't swinging. And there it is, little 95-mile-an-hour four-seam right down the middle to get ahead. He should have been aggressive here. He could have whacked me really good. But he didn't. He ends up getting me. I end up getting into an 0-2 count in this situation. There's a slider, a little hanger, pops it up foul, and now we get to the 0-2 count. And now they go ahead and move the infield in, which ended up being a good decision, because you'll see I throw kind of a dumb pitch here, 0-2 to Abreu, but it ends up working because Alex Leedy at third base makes a sick diving play for me here. Look at Nicky Punto telling the boys to move in. So Buck Martinez couldn't make it one more season. Things must be pretty shaky for him. He had some health issues. There's that 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and Leedy with the dive to make the play. Keeps that man on third. Sets up a date with Miggy Cabrera. I think I end up walking him. But, yeah, I was trying to dig out of this inning scoreless. And this was just really fun. I mentioned how this was a huge confidence boost for me because I pretty much roll out from this point forward. I know I walk the next batter, but as a young player, and you're going to see a lot of young players in this tournament, prospects, guys up and coming, it's just a great opportunity to see how you stack up against the best of the best. Even though they're not in midseason form, there's something very exciting about it. They're showing him moving the infield in. That's Mike Hargrove. He was the bench coach at the time. You see Piazza sitting there. He was the hitting coach at the time. The guy behind them is the manager, Marco Mazzieri. He's now the head of the Italian Federation. There's a little slider down to Miggy. I mean, this was Miguel Cabrera in his prime, so I was a little bit probably rightfully scared of him. He was only a 4-time All-Star at the time. I think he ended up with like 13 All-Star games or something like that, so... prime Miggy here. Do I just go 4-pitch walk? Do we decide not to even face Miggy? I don't know. Buck is 77. Life of a broadcaster, I imagine, can take its toll. He's earned the opportunity to sit back and relax. I mean, it's definitely a lot of games. I'll say that. I'm surprised Buck wouldn't give the fans one last year. You know, as announced, you will be retiring. I bet you something went south quickly here. I don't think he probably... There's a look at Luis Sojo, who was the Venezuela manager from 09. Oh, look at that 3-1 breaking ball banger to Miggy, swing and miss, and then I think he's able to spit on it 3-2. But getting a swing and miss, from Miggy at this point was a very, very exciting development for me. He's gonna call another breaking ball. Oh no, he called a fastball. Poor K, Francisco. And then I pull it, as I tend to do. And now we set up a date with Maglio. These names are all a blast from the past. They sure are. This was just such a great opportunity for me, even with the huge pimple on my cheek. So it was very cool. Canada USA had 42,000 in attendance. Nothing else over 20,000 in this round. That makes sense. So here's Maglio. Yeah, and see, this is the thing. This wasn't a natural way for me to throw. I could throw hard this way, and I had some different shapes that were interesting, but this was a Cardinals thing. They wanted everybody to kind of stay tall, throw downhill, and that's kind of the mode I was in. And you see me pulling everything and being uncomfortable with it. I had a hard time figuring it out, but we figured it out eventually. And I started rolling in this game. This was a good mound visit by Cervelli, already showing the leadership skills it takes to be a manager. Nowadays, I'd stick a star pimple patch on it. Yeah, probably. Good call. Anyway, I want to watch the rest of this at bat because I do throw a bastard slider for the punchy here. Let's see how it works. Little backdoor fastball for a strike. Yes, they did want Chris Carpenter deliveries, 100%. Carpenter, Wainwright. There's actually a guy, Todd Wellemeyer, that they used to always show me all the time. Oh, banger, straight down. See, this is the slider I did not have later in my career because of my lower arm angle. Everything had to go right, left. The straight down, really good for swing and miss. And I think we're going to get another one here, probably to end the inning. Let's see. Oh, foul ball. It's too bad I don't have the dugout app for this. I could really fire through it really fast. All right, this should be the punchy. Nope, fastball. I don't know. I don't remember. I definitely wasn't shaking Cervelli at the time. Oh, getting some sunscreen off my neck? In the dome? Definitely possible. 2009 was the peak of teams pushing the tall mechanics on all their pitchers. Yes, and they definitely... Look at this banger. See you later, Maglio. They definitely pushed on us more of a cookie-cutter approach, whereas now it's more maximizing what you can do individually. You know, back then it was more about like archetypes, like, oh, let's make everybody this way or that way. All right, so let's join me here in the second inning when I start to roll a little bit better. Little pop-up to Carlos Guillen. The jog off the mound, that's something I've been doing my whole career, so nothing changed there. Got that Drysdale number? I wouldn't say, I mean, it wasn't like full sticky, but probably there was some element of sunscreen and rosin going on trying to get a grip because that's what we were taught since like 06. So when you see me wiping the sweat off my neck, probably was combined with a little bit of sunscreen there, not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Yeah, now we start to roll. WBC being so short means any team with big leaguers could conceivably get a few guys hot at the same time and make a run. Totally agree. I can't conceive about how pushing for uniformity on your pitching staff was ever thought to be a good idea. We knew so little about pitching back then that we would literally just try to reverse engineer guys. Like, it would be like, oh, this guy's good. Let's make everybody like him because we know this works. Even though not everybody's meant to be the same. So it was a mess. It was a tough era in baseball at the time, and it set me back. I probably could have got to the big leagues 2 years earlier had I remained true to myself. But you know, you want to be coachable, right? So it's tough. And this is my excuse. You know, this is my This is why I feel like it was okay to have a little sunscreen, you know? I mean, I burn easily, you know? Ooh, look at that slider. Man, at times I do wish I had a little more downward action on my slider as I got older, because you can see it was a little more useful for whip. Yeah, and because I'm used to closing my body off, stepping straight opened me up way too early. And I think you're totally right. I was yanking everything. That's like all my misses were always over rotating because I didn't have a delivery that kept me on line as well anymore. My natural hip structure wants me to step a little bit across my body to realign forward. Whereas in this one, if I step forward, my natural hip, anatomy wants me to already be pulled open. So not great. I also definitely got squeezed a little bit in this game, which is okay. And this is actually funny because this was my catcher when I got to the Rockies a couple years later, Ramon Hernandez, who I'm about to face. Pretty cool. What do I think my arm angle is at here? I bet it's in the mid to upper 30 degrees, right? I mean, my arm angle in the big leagues was like 25, but I bet you this is like 37, 38 would be my guess, closer to league average. That's squeezed right there. That was probably a split. So I don't know. It's kind of dumb. All right, I got a bogey in like a couple minutes, so let's get through this really quickly, and then I'll say goodbye to you guys. Yeah, thanks, J-Man. They pushed tall and fall on every prospect and then blamed every UCL injury on it and stopped pushing it almost entirely. Yeah, and like I just think now, like we just think of things differently. We think of things like the rotation phase of the delivery and the linear component of delivery, and needing to have a mixture of both of those. Whereas back then, it was tall and fall or drop and drive. There was a lot of pushing off the back leg. There was a lot of triple extension. There was a lot of not understanding what's real. What was my velo here? I think I was like 92 to 96 in this game as a starter. So pretty good for a young starter. See, there's a 95 right there. So when you dropped it, you lost the downward movement. Lots of swinging on top of these breaking pitches. Yes, it's hard for me to create downward action from a lower slot. It was easier for me to create right to left action. So ultimately, yeah, the arm angle produces the shape. That's something I've been explaining to people over the last few years is you know, it's not just about grip, it's also about arm angle. All right, so there's the second inning, and then we'll fast forward really quick to the end of the third because I have a really easy third inning. And then we'll get out of here. Yeah, Cervelli was gunning it back to me, which was so sick. And of course, I always wanted to be a starter, S-Man. That was my goal. My whole career coming up was to be a stud starter. This was my thing. But ultimately, I had trouble getting lefties out. I was not very pitch efficient. And then once I got in the bullpen, I was pretty dominant right away. So, you know, teams didn't want to mess with success. I know I got to go get Archie. I'm leaving in 3 minutes, Brady. And then I'll be there on time. When did pitchers actually begin to delve into their biomechanics of being efficient with their bodies? Much later than this. I wouldn't say we weren't starting to figure things out as a group till like 2014, 15, and then it started getting better from there. I have this jersey somewhere. Yeah. Little ground ball to third. Nicky Punto making the play, and then I'm going to close this out with 2 punchies. Pretty sure. We need to remember that during this time, teams wanted the ball throw low in the zone versus the school of rise. It's a little bit of the truth is there's elements of a lot of different strategies that work depending on who you are and what you bring to the table. There is no one way, and that's one of the beautiful things about baseball as a sport. There's no one archetype body-wise. There's no one archetype pitch-wise, hitting-wise. Like, all different things work. There's trade-offs with everything, and it's interesting to watch. She enjoys it, but she also knows I have to go get our 2-year-old, so I'm have to leave in 1 minute. Let me just move up a couple pitches here because I really do have to leave. So we already punched him out, and then we'll watch me punch Melvin Mora out to end this outing, and then I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. There's a little slider for a strike. He doesn't think that's a strike, but Poppy, that's right down the middle, my friend.
You know, one thing I've yet to see in this game, Ottavino shake off Cervelli. Once again, the catcher
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's dad life. See you later. High fastball in 95. And the young prospect and Cervelli's fired up running off the mound. And that was it. We had a good time. We did some things. And that was the first run through the WBC for me. Very excited to be named to the roster this year. Very excited for everybody that got named to their respective rosters. We're getting close to spring training games beginning. We're getting close to WBC starting, and it's going to be awesome. Thanks for everybody hanging in with me on the stream today. Sorry I couldn't go longer, but duty calls, and I will see you guys on Monday, probably with a guest. I think we're going to have Colin McHugh, but we'll see. We'll see what else happens this weekend, and have everybody have a great weekend. Once again, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys on Baseball and Coffee on Monday. Thanks so much. Adios, guys. Peace out.